Let's just rock and roll. And I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Cynthia Barnes. I've already done you an intro, but welcome, Cynthia. Great to have you on the show.
I couldn't be more thrilled to be here. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. And how are you?
If I were any better, there'd be two of me.
I've heard you say this before and I've stolen it. I love that saying. If I were any better, there'd be two of me. Absolutely. So
Yes.
you are buzzing today. Now, I want to know because I've been fortunate enough to meet you when you were headlining at Jeb Blount's keynote conference about 2 years ago now. And there's so many things that you talk about. You're a top LinkedIn voice. What would you say your why is? What's Cynthia Barnes's purpose?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure out when I get to the end and they pull back the curtain and they say, "You did well, Cynthia. Would you like to know what the heavens had planned for you if you were willing to have the courage to say yes instead of having the fear to say no or not right now?" And they pull back the curtain and they say, "Here are all the things we had planned for you, but you were just too scared." It's all of those things that I see that I passed up on, that going forward, I say, if I'm fortunate enough for them to bring them back around, I won't say no again. I'll have the courage to stand up and say, yes, I'll try. Yes, I will jump and grow wings on the way down. So that story has yet to be written. And I really don't know what the purpose is. But what I do know is that because I'm still here, I'm not done.
I love that. That's the courage, right? That's one thing that I'm going to tell you something. And this is me being completely honest here. When a lot of women meet other women, right, who are very confident, sometimes they feel intimidated by them, right? Now, we met at Outbound where there were lots of people, everyone was talking about Cynthia Barnes, keynote speaker. And the first thing that struck me about you when I met you was that you had a perfect mix of confidence, belief in yourself, but warmth as well, right? Because a lot of people think that you can't be warm as a woman. You've got to be brash and confident and fierce, but you've certainly got that warmth, which I think is, I mean, is that intentional?
It is intentional.
Yeah.
I think there's a delicate balance between being what society says you should be and being true to your own values and authentic and true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to show up as the person I want to be and the person who I need to be and the person who I needed my 10-year-old self to be.
I love that.
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure out the difference between how society thought I should show up, because society will put labels on you. You should be this, and you should look this way, and you should look that way. And sometimes that conflict, it makes you have like an identity crisis because you don't know, how am I supposed to show up? And if it's contingent on who's across the table, then you know there's an issue.
Yes.
Sometimes you just have to say, who do I want to be no matter who's across the table? Who do I want to be in the mirror?
Yes. I love
What
that.
are my values? What are my wants? What are my needs? And am I acting in accordance with those, regardless of anyone else? And
Yes.
for me, that's kindness and self-compassion.
Yeah, I love that. I think we do, don't we? We look at the circles that we walk into and we think, how do they want me to show up? It's just human nature. I guess it goes back to the caveman days. But one thing, and you talk a lot about equality and diversity. And actually, I'm going to tell you something. It makes me angry. Okay. I'm going to tell you what makes me angry. It makes me angry that when I'm researching you and all the great things that you've spoken about and that you say, that it always comes up in the intro that you were the first Black woman to keynote a conference. That just bothers me. How come? What is going on with the world? Like, surely that is not the case. Is that the case?
It is.
There's part of me that's like, I'm so happy, but surely the world has moved way beyond that in our lifetime, right? She's like, I just can't believe that sometimes we still live in a world where there is that lack of diversity. But I think what happens is there's the company. And I was going to talk to you about this because we used to do exactly this. And I'm talking about diversity in type of person, right? So we used to do a competency framework based on our top performers in the company. And I talk a lot about this because at the time we thought it was brilliant. We were like, okay, let's look at this person, look at what she's doing. Let's look at him. Okay, let's write down all these top performing attributes that they bring to this role. And now we're going to recruit based on those attributes. And we had no idea we were probably missing all these different attributes that someone else could bring to the role. Maybe someone else would be better at time management, or maybe someone else would be better at this. But we were only focusing on what the organization had. And I think that is one of the key problems, is that we get so used to what is in our view at the time that we stick to that. And it's scary. It's that unconscious bias, isn't it? It's sad. And I know that you talk a lot about that. Do you see in sales and business there being an inequality of women, race, learning disability? Do you see diversity being a huge issue still in the world?
It is to the point that we put on blinders, to the point where we limit ourselves as to what can be based upon what is. What we see may or may not be all that can be. It's like there was a famous swimmer once who said, and I forget her name, she said, when I compare myself on the leaderboard to the person who just beat me, I limit myself to what she can accomplish. And that's it. When I compare myself to what I am able to accomplish, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
So when we as an organization look at, to your point, the competencies of the best practices of what is excellence per se, we're only looking at the best our organization has ever been, instead of the benchmark of what could we possibly be. And that's a huge misstep, in my opinion. So when we take a look through a diverse lens, if we're only taking into account homogeneous thought, we are missing the mark from so many different facets. And we are doing a disservice to those internal customers, our colleagues, our external customers, because when we have internal customers who are homogeneous, we're most likely prospecting customers who look like us, who think like us. We're missing the boat on that. And we're also missing the boat on our shareholders, our possibly stakeholders, who miss out on the benefits of a growing revenue share. The whole world misses out. And not to mention those who are watching us. Representation matters. So how can little girls and little boys think of being in XYZ position if they don't see anyone who looks like them in XYZ position? The world misses out.
That's so true. One thing, and we both share a good friend, Gina Tramarco, and me and her used to always talk about this because we spend a lot of time together. She's from America, I'm from the UK. And one thing that we used to always say, the cultural differences were English actually really bad, saying to the children, oh, don't dream too high. Okay. Like just stay where you can, like be very humble, all those things. Whereas I've noticed there's more of a tendency in America for people to be, no, you can do that. You go there, you do that. Now, I'm curious to know, have you got any stories of when, because I speak to women with imposter syndrome all the time, or when someone has sort of tried to shrink you into a box and you've had the courage to kind of burst out of that and overcome feelings of being inadequate?
Every day.
Really?
Every day. I recently did a TEDx on the exact same topic. And the TEDx is about humility being a 4-letter word. Society, it's like as kids were given different rule books. Girls are taught to be humble and modest and not to brag about our achievements. On the other hand, little boys are taught to be brave and bold and daring and to shout from the rooftops their achievements and accomplishments. And as we progress through our careers, women take that rule book, and when a boss gives us a compliment, we will deflect, downplay, and say, things like, it was a team effort, or I got lucky. And then the boss will sometimes think to themselves, well, maybe she's not ready for a promotion because she can't even take a compliment. She can't even own her awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go ahead and give it to Chuck because he can obviously accept the praise that I've given him. That
Yeah.
humility puts us in a box simply because we can't say thank you. And
Yeah.
it affects everything and everyone around us. When I was researching this trait, this deflection of compliments, I found that in Uganda, East Africa, women don't deflect compliments. They don't say things like, oh, these earrings, I got them on the clearance shelf at Target, or these shoes, I got them as hand me downs at thrift shop, or whatever. They accept compliments by simply saying, thank you, it's true. Isn't that amazing?
It's absolutely amazing. It's
Yes.
I every day that someone gives a compliment, you hear it everywhere you go, don't you? If I was to walk outside there now, I bet someone, if I said, "Oh, I love your dress," they bet, "Oh, don't be silly." But it is a thing in females. I
It
totally see
is.
it more in females. Why are we doing this? Why are we dumbing ourselves down? Because I believe there's parts of humility that are good, right? So, like, for example,
Sure.
when I talk about bosses that I work with, they say, give us the bad feedback, give us the good feedback. But it's about, if someone puts a light on you, why don't you shine with that light? Why do we have to say, not me?
Exactly. So no one ever gets to the corner office by downplaying and ditching compliments.
Mm,
We think as women, self promotion is a negative thing, and nothing could be further from the truth. We
mm,
think that as women, our accomplishments are going to speak for themselves and that we will get tapped on the shoulder because I'm doing a good job. And they will automatically see how hard I work and how good I do, and they will promote me. And that's not the case. We have got to own our awesome and shine light on our achievements because no one else will.
mm. Yeah.
Imagine a world where women accepted compliments and owned them because there's a difference. I can accept a compliment by saying thank you. And for some, that's hard enough.
Yeah.
But to actually own the compliment, to take it a step further by saying it's true,
Yeah.
that is ownership of, yes, I chose a great pair of earrings. I own it by saying, you know what? That deep down ingrained ownership of I did choose well is like rocket fuel for your self confidence.
I love that. I love that. And I think I'm going to try that. Thank you. I'm going to also try and teach it to my daughter, because I think we live in such a
Mhm.
world now where women are sort of expected to be this and to be that, but to own what they have is so important. I always think about the women that I speak to who struggled. So, for example, I was recruiting about a year ago, and there was a lady who said to me, "I'm really sorry, but I'm in a wheelchair," right?
Mhm.
And it's going to be a problem. And she was apologizing for it. And I was like, you don't need to apologize for it. There was a problem with her accessing different buildings. And she said, you're going to have to let people know about this. And I've had some awful discrimination for it in the past, which is wrong, but she can't write it down or record it. It's just she's noticed it. And she said, my confidence is at an all-time low. And
Mm.
there's so many examples of people who have been treated like this, whether it's in a boys' club and they're sat around a table of men and they don't want to go for a leadership role. I would love to know, what would you say to these women or these people who
Mm.
have been in these situations where they just no longer have the confidence to, because they're so scared of that rejection, or they're so scared of not being able to bounce back?
Yes, yes. And it's a real thing. People say, get some affirmations and write them down. And I used to say that all the time. Write down your affirmations and say them to yourself 100 times a day. But the reality is, if you don't believe it within your bones, you cannot conceive it.
Mm,
What I suggest, and I take women through this framework all the time, is to start by acknowledging the fact that your self worth needs some work.
mm,
Self worth and self esteem are different. You have to acknowledge that you are worth everything in the world because you breathe. Your self worth is not contingent on anyone saying you're worthy, on anyone acknowledging you. Your self worth, your worthiness is because you take in air. That's it.
mm,
The second thing I would recommend, once you grasp that concept that you are worthy, is to write down all of your superpowers, all of the things that make you special, that make you unique, that make you extraordinary. For some people, that's really hard because we have beat ourselves into the ground with, I'm not enough, I can't do that. So maybe you start with your friends and send them a quick text and say, I'm working on a project. Me, can you list 3 things that I'm really good at? Take your time. And what am I good at? And you will start to get 3 things from every single person. You're kind. You can bake a mean cake, whatever it is. And you start to get this list of what your friends think about you. And you compile this list and you put it up someplace. You remind yourself of how your friends think of you when you start to distrust how awesome you are.
Yeah, that's so true. I always love the quote, and I think choosing your friends and your environment so carefully is crucial, right? I love that quote saying, stick with people who would praise you if you were not in the room, or who would fight your battles if you were not in the room. And I think there's a huge part of that. I've seen some of the best talent, the best people just be in the wrong environment with people who do not make them feel good about themselves. Do you
Yes.
have, because I remember we even spoke about this at the conference, but do you have any advice on how someone could go to an interview, right, with a new client, with a new company? How will they know, if you've got any questions that they could ask, to know that this is going to be a good environment for them and help them be the best version of themselves?
My first question would be of the interviewer.
Mm.
Who can I talk to on your team that would sing your praises?
Ooh,
Not can I talk to anybody on your team, but who can I talk to on your team that would sing your praises? Because it's not a yes or no question. They have to answer. And if they pause, that's a red flag. They should immediately be able to say, so and so, so and so, and so and so.
yeah.
If they can't, you may want to
Yeah.
look elsewhere.
That's
Another
such a good
question.
point. For anyone who's listening to this, I have completely put Cynthia on the spot today. She didn't know what I was going to ask her, and her answers are like, oh my word, so good. I love that. Who in
Yes.
your team would sing your praises?
Yes. Because remember, you are about to spend at least a third of your life with this team, this manager, this company. And if your time is valuable to you, which it should be, because you can't get time back
Mm,
and you can't get your energy back without trying really hard. So you've got to remember, you've got to preserve 2 things at all costs: your time and your energy. That being said, if you're protecting your time and your energy and you go to work where a job sucks your energy and you spend a third of your time hating your job, life is going to be really hard and you deserve better. So
yes.
let's go into that interview with some posture about you interviewing them, because you're about to give them a third of your life rather than them giving you some money for your life. Difference.
Yes.
There's a difference. They're just paying you what they think you're worth. You are giving them your life that you cannot give back and your time that you cannot give back. There's a difference. So let's say for what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my
You are the
gosh.
prize. You are the prize. You are the
Yeah.
prize. Yeah.
And
Okay.
even when you're in the job, right? How many people are
Right.
in these situations and they're all loyalty, loyalty. I must be loyal.
What?
We must be defacing. We must be loyal. It's better the devil you know. What will people think if I meet? What will people think is that I would say the most common thing that goes through people's minds that destroys them, right?
Baby, what are you thinking about you?
Yes.
You've
Yeah.
got to respect yourself enough to walk away from things that don't grow you, serve you, or make you happy. Anyway, don't get me on my soapbox. We are going to interview this company as if our life depends on it, because it does. So
Yeah.
we want to ask that manager, who are the 3 people on your team I can talk to that will sing your praises? What kind of manager, supervisor, leader are you? How, if I'm a woman, I would want to know, how do the women on your team feel about working for you? Ask
Ooh.
a man or a woman, because it matters. And
Yeah.
if I'm a Black woman, I'm going to ask, how do the African Americans, how do the Blacks, how do the Asians feel about working on your team? And if they say there are no Asians, that's another red flag. Not as if
Oh,
you can't be the minority and the only one working on that team. Just know what you're walking into.
yeah.
Know that you will be the trailblazer. Know that you will be the one getting your elbows and your knees bloody, because you are the first or you are the only. Knowledge is power. So know what you're walking into. And then ask the questions. Why will I be the only one? Or what happened to the last one?
Yeah.
These are hard questions, but you deserve to know the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can't remember where she was from, but I had a lady go out to interview, I think it was about a year ago. And she said, "Is it okay, Susanna, if I ask them what policy they have on diversity?" And I was like, "Of course it's okay."
Of course.
Anyway, the fact that she asked me that made me sad in itself. Like, why would it? That's a brilliant question. Anyway,
It is.
when she asked it, and unfortunately, this was a long time ago, but she did say that she had asked at previous interviews and they seemed almost quite baffled that it was a question that was asked and they were quite upset by it. And I was like, what? It's such an important question. So I love that. I love that. The world that I come from, where I was born in the type of place where everyone was similar ethnicity. I know you often talk about, I think it said that you were part of the only Black family in Sundown town.
Yes.
So how did that feel? How did that feel growing? Is that where you got the kind of confidence to shine? How did that feel growing up like that?
In some regards, I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. And because I didn't know any differently, it didn't bother me until it was brought to my attention that I was the only Black, until they started treating me differently.
Yeah.
Then it became an issue.
Yeah. And they did. They treated you
And
differently.
they did. They did. Until it's like when you have a group of 4-year-olds, they don't know hatred until someone teaches them hatred, right? All kids love each other.
Yes.
Hatred is taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love is innate. Everyone loves naturally. Hatred is taught.
Yeah.
So when the home life of my peers got to the point where racism and hatred was taught, then it started to come into the school and affect me. But as little kids, we weren't taught hatred.
Yeah.
It's when we became older and it mattered to their parents, TV, things like that, that it was infused.
Yeah.
It also taught me to recognize things as an adult and made me hyper aware of signs and signals that the majority of people are not aware of because I lived it. And what one person can say with a smile on their face, the underlying meaning is
You see
something
through it.
I've heard before, which is a precursor to an action I've experienced.
In a way, you've turned it into a superpower, right?
Yes, I have.
You turned the experience that many would say, you've turned something around that could potentially put someone in a box and make them feel inadequate. You've made it a superpower. And I think that in itself is so inspirational. And like, I hope that there'll be people listening to this who, whether they've had imposter syndrome or whether they felt that someone has put them in a box that they feel that is not true to themselves, that they can use what you're saying to burst out of it and be the best version of themselves. And honestly, I am so inspired by you. What is next? That's what I want to know, Cynthia. What is next? You've done a TEDx talk, you've written books, you're coaching people. What's next for Cynthia Barnes?
You really want to know? You
Yes,
really
please.
want to know what gives me goosebumps and gets me up in the morning, ready to hit the ground running and saying, I am going to own today? I see myself sparking a global movement where women are expected, not just encouraged, to own their awesome by responding to compliments with thank you, it's true. I see little girls, I see junior high girls, I see college age girls accepting compliments with thank you, it's true. They have thank you, it's true on the front of their shirts and on the back, a hashtag, I own my awesome. And they're not ridiculed for it. They're not told you're braggadocious or you're vain or you're cocky. It's a norm because women are tired of society saying you have to be humble, you have to be modest. I want women to proudly own their achievements. I want to spark that global movement with Dove, with L'Oreal, with Athleta, with Lululemon. I want to be around the table with Oprah and Barack and Michelle and Kamala and all of my friends and Pitbull because he will start a party no matter where we are. That's where I see this global movement where girls are owning their awesome. That's what's next.
Oh, you're giving me goosebumps now as well, just thinking about that. And very much so. What I was thinking then was about my daughter and my responsibility to her. She got someone said something that wasn't very nice about her appearance. She's actually got one tooth. She knocked it out. Anyway, there's all these things. And then I got thinking about all the people that we see who have confidence, who may be imperfect, but no one notices it because of the confidence that they live and breathe and embrace. And I just think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 20 stone or if you've got a disfigurement or whatever. Like, if you wear it with confidence, then you are the most beautiful person around. I really believe that. I hope that you succeed on your mission. I have no doubt that you will. I'm so inspired by your courage and the fact that you show up in such a positive way every day. And I'm certainly inspired. And if people are listening to this and they think, I want to be coached by Cynthia, I want to get Cynthia to speak at my event, or maybe I just want to speak to Cynthia, how would they go about getting in contact with you?
Thank you. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Cynthia Barnes is the easiest way to reach out to me. Please connect with me. Let me know that you heard me here so I know the connection. And yes, I welcome all connections. There's no such thing as a bad connection. So please do reach out to me and let's see and explore the possibilities.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.